Welcome back. This is part 3 of the free step-by-step tutorial using Stamperia's Dream paper pad by Valerie at JNS Hobbies and Crafts. Let's get started. This is why I have a magnet on the side of my glue, because I don't like losing my pin. Every time I set it down, I lose it. Alright, so now we can attach this to here. I'm going to put score tape just along this edge. You can take this little piece, this little stuff off if you want to. I'm just putting a little extra score tape just because I have this plastic on here and I don't know how it's going to glue, but I'm thinking it's going to be slick. I'm going to run score tape just along the bottom and the side and this little piece right here. And I'll go ahead and take the backing off the score tape and I'll put glue on the rest of it. I'm going to put glue on the rest. Make sure you're careful when you lay it down with the score tape because it'll attach fast. Go ahead and attach our folds now. I'm just going to set this one aside for a moment. This is the one with the little polka dots. And push your page right up against your fold, hinges down. Make sure it's straight on the bottom and the top. Pinch, turn it over, and glue it down. Same with the other one. Put it on. Make sure it's up against the right-hand side. Flush with the bottom, flush with the top. And glue down. So we're just going to set these aside for just a second, okay? And get this piece out of your reserve pile. And we're going to do some cutting. So, let me zoom in. We are going to cut out a kiss to build a dream on. I'm going to go around Dream Big, and I'm actually going to cut around the pink part that is here. We're going to cut out Live Every Moment as well. I'm going to cut out this little extra, and then we're going to also cut out Believe You Can as well. We're going to cut the whole thing out, and for right now I'm just going to show you. Try not to cut into the other ones because we will use those later, okay? Trying really hard not to cut into the other ones, and we will have to cut into the one that says Love. Put the rest of these in your reserve. And these are the ones we're going to cut around. So when I mean I'm going to cut around this one, this is what's cool. We are going to ink the edges of these, but we don't have to be perfect because the edges of this are not perfect. We are going to back these in cardstock, so we get to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle around our cardstock too. I feel like I'm doing a commercial. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Just going to throw the little pieces away that I am wiggling off. Okay, so ink these up, and I'm not going to make you watch me ink them all up, so when you're done, we're going to grab some pieces out of our cardstock. So let's go ahead and grab those, and then we'll ink these up. In your stockpile, I'm going to set these aside. You should have these. Go ahead and pull those out, finish inking these, and we'll get ready to move on. So we are going to glue these down. Be sure to leave about 1/8 of an inch between, or quarter of an inch between them, because we need a border around all of these. So don't glue them too close to each other, and don't glue them too close to the edges. This way we can cut around them. And the cool thing is because they're not cut out in perfect squares, we can actually be kind of funky with our cutouts when we cut them out, so they don't have to be perfect. And actually, before you glue down these two big ones, so I just got a couple of brads, and I went ahead and got, these are probably like almost 1/4 inch. They're just basic brads. I got some that are kind of copper colored because they went really well with our color box ink, our cocoa ink. We are going to put the backing on these after we put the brads through. So cut these out first and make sure that you leave a little border all the way around. And again, I told you, if you want to go crazy and not follow the exact border, go for it. I'm going to save this other piece for my cardboard piece. So there's my first one. Save this piece, and I'm going to cut out this one. Save this piece. I'm just cutting around, leaving a little border. I'm going to throw the little teeny pieces away. So now I got those cut out. If you have a little teeny hole maker, it's got to be a really small hole because we only need these brads to go through them, and we don't want them to be really big. I'm taking Dream Big and it's going with Live Every Moment of Life Together. And Believe You Can is going to go A Kiss to Build a Dream on. So I just put 2 holes, okay? And I'm going to set these aside for just a second. The brad should fit in them. When the brad fits in, I want it to be able to turn. So hold the brad and just notice that it turns. Same with the other one. You want to make sure that when your brad goes in, that you can turn. Okay, so make sure your hole's big enough for it to turn around the brad base. Now, before we attach the brads to these, I want to make sure, I'm going to get off this little piece right here. Just throw that away. I'm just cutting off this little teeny piece. We don't need that. I want to make sure that these are cut around these. I'm not gluing them down because I'm going to glue them down after the brad is opened up on the back to have this cut out. Because once we attach it to the other piece, we won't be able to cut around it. Lay it on there and cut around it, leaving your little border on these cards. So I'm just cutting around it. It's not glued down. I'm just getting it prepared. So that's ready for that one. The other one, do the same thing, get it ready. I'm throwing all the little pieces that I cut off away, okay? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to line this up on top of this, and I am going to put it so that the top, I basically can have it like that, okay? It's kind of right up against here. I'm going to make a little pencil mark where the hole goes. Okay, make another hole in that one. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. I'm going to lay it right up in the corner. Now I want to make sure that I'm right up about in here. So I'm kind of make a little spot so you can see every day and just the tip of the bottom of the G from the other one. There's a little spot. Go ahead and make a hole in each of those spots. Okay, I have my little holes. A couple of my pieces. This one goes to here, this one goes to here. I'm going to put my little brad in. I am not going to make it so tight that I cannot move my, this little guy. This needs to be able to move, so don't make it so tight that it can't move. Okay? Make sure that your tails to your brad are bent in, and these are loose. Okay? See how loose they are? Key is that this can move up like this. I'm going to make sure that these are, I better put the glue on here first. Make sure it's going the right direction. Okay, that's the way it should go. And get that on there. Make sure your brads are not, tails are not hanging out, okay? And you'll need to let those dry. Do the other one. Take this piece. Make sure it's up a little ways. Separate these out. Then I'm bending these to a corner. I think I want to put a teeny piece of score tape over my brad this time. I think this will make it just a little bit easier. That might make it easier, so that's better. Glue. And the rest of it. I gotta make sure this is down evenly. Okay. Okay, go ahead and get out your 7 and 8. And this one that has the hinge going this direction is going to go. Now what I'm doing is I'm lifting, putting this harder, I'm sorry, the larger card goes on the back, and this is going to hinge over the front. So we're not gluing down yet. And the same with this one. We're going to flip up the hinge for a second. This is going to go down, and this one's going to hinge on this side. So we want to make sure that they're even. I'm going to measure and tell you exactly where they need to go. I'm pushing my ruler right up against the bottom of the block, so 1 1/8. And I'm just going to make a light little pencil mark. And the same with this one. Get your score tape out, or put score tape on the back of these larger pieces. I put score tape all the way around, make sure nothing goes over the edges on both of these, and I'm going to make sure it's down nice and snug. Page 8. Set the other one aside for a moment. Go ahead and place it on here. Measured my bottom up against the line I made. You're going to have to put your finger underneath it here. Turn so that it comes off. Now make sure this is straight. Once again, I'm going to make a little line where that's going to be placed. Okay, so now I can pull off the backing to the score tape and get this piece on here straight. I just put a little line around the bottom that matches with the bottom, so I know where it goes. That's itty bitty pieces of score tape, sorry. Okay, match the little line that you made at the bottom. The score tape is going to keep this little hinge from moving around. Hinge it back over. Let's go get the other one. Do the same thing. Make sure the score tape is on the back, nice and snug. We're going to place page 8, line it up. I'm using this as my guide. Remember, this one's longer underneath it here, so press it down. Okay, open it up. Making a pencil line the whole length of the bottom. Pull up the score tape. Place this down right where you made the line. Press it down nice and tight. And bring your hinge around. Put our score tape on the back of both of these. Frame all the way around. I'm going to do 3 down the middle because this is kind of a heavier page. And I will embellish a little bit later. Okay, be right back. Frame, 3 down the center. Make sure it's on nice and tight. Take the backing off of both of these and get them ready to put in your album and bring your album out. Got my album out. This is page 7. Place it down. Make sure it's down nice and snug. Close it up. And then take page 8. Do the same thing. I'm going to make a quick fix. I'm having a little bit of a difficulty keeping this magnet, and this is page 4, I'm sorry. And this magnet, because I made this a little bit too thick over here, I'm going to make a little fix so you won't have the same problem. This is just not gonna stay all the time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these pieces that we just were using, and since we already have the With Love here, I want you to take and cut out the Dreams Do Come True, and then at the bottom we're going to get rid of this, or we're going to cut this little one out that says Follow Your Dreams. So we're going to cut this one out. Okay, so Follow Your Dreams, and we're going to take this one and put it in your reserve. Same with the one that says Thank You. I'm going to cut a little bit bigger edge because I'm going to ink it. Okay, and again, I'm just kind of loosely going around it because none of these are perfectly square. Go ahead and put this small piece in your reserve. Now, let's ink around both of these. Did you get out a magnet? Let's get a little piece of black out of our stockpile. I'm gonna go, let's get one of these. Okay, let's go ahead and bring these 2 pieces out. I'll set my book up here just for a second. Get your magnet. Probably just going to set that one right along the edge here, and this one right next to it. Don't put them on there yet. Don't glue them down. Just get your black cut out, just like we did before. I'm not going to put a huge border, maybe about 1/16 of an inch, just enough to get it matted. Okay, there's my first little mat. I'm just going to slice this off. It's easier to cut. Go ahead and put this piece back in your stockpile. Again, just going to cut a little small border. Those both have their little borders cut out for them. Get your magnet out. Put one of them right on the edge. Now we don't want it to cover it, so don't get too close to the edge, but we're going to put it right underneath. So I'm going to get a little piece of score tape. Careful not to get it on the edge where you're going to have your paper. Make sure it doesn't show off the edge. No score tape. Take the score tape backing off of the magnet, and we'll glue this down on its backing. Put on there evenly. I much prefer the score tape being underneath it here. I don't have to worry about the glue making a magnet weird. Okay. Okay, so it's about almost a ½ inch from the edge, the left-hand side of the magnet. Pull the score tape backing off of here. Put glue on the back of this. Make sure they are both readable. You don't have them on the wrong direction. Place this one down. This one might have a little bit of magnet bump. I'm going to hold it for just a second. Sometimes you need a little extra glue. Score tape, okay? So, back of this one, magnet, back of this one. The reason this is short, the score tape only goes 1.5 inches in, is because that's where this is going to stop. Pull the score tape off the back of the longer piece. Center. Nice and tight. Pull it over. Attach the other one with the magnet. I'm going to make a line, once again with my pencil, and that's where that one's going to go. So I'm going to pull the tape off the back of this one. The score tape is also going to keep it from ripping off. It'll be a lot more secure with the score tape on it. I didn't think about how thick this was going to be when I did it. Center this on here, press it down nice and tight. Now, see? And the piece that I took off earlier, you can still put back on here. Looks really pretty right there. Now it doesn't come apart anymore. We are ready to move on. So on page 7 I added one of our pretty little petaloo blooms, and then these are the Tim Holtz bouquets and some stickles. And then on the other side I added a DBS butterfly with some stickles on it, and these are our mini blooms and a little bit more of the Tim Holtz bouquet and stickles on those. Okay, so we're getting ready to start page 9 and 10. So in your paper pad I want you to locate this piece. It's got this beautiful herringbone pattern on it, or harlequin. I always want to call it herringbone. Some little roses on this side and some roses down here, and on the other side it looks like this. It's kind of a gray wood pattern. With the larger roses in the bottom left corner and the smaller rose on the right, I want you to measure over 6 inches and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. I want you to take the one with the larger flower, turn it up this way. Okay, so you have your larger flower on the top, your smaller flower on the right. We're going to turn this way. Okay, large flower, small flower. Measure over 8 inches and cut both pieces. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put your smaller pieces in your reserve pile, and these are the backs of page 9 and 10. Let's go ahead and set them aside for a moment. Okay, so in your stockpile you should have a large piece of cardstock, and it is 6 by 8.5. Make sure it is 6 across. So if you need to trim a little bit off or whatever, I just want you to make sure, because mine happens to be 6. So yours should be 2, but for any reason it is not. It needs to be 6 inches across. The length is not important right now. I want you to go get your Beatrice Desire die, and we're going to place her right at the edge. So I'm going to get my tape out. So place her as close and centered as you can to the bottom of the cardstock, and we're going to go ahead and run that through the die cutter. Just make sure that she's centered on both sides. Alright, we'll be right back. So let's go ahead and release her. Be very careful. Sometimes these little dies are very delicate. Now on the sides, we'll take your scissors and just release. I'm going to release at a little angle. Kind of the angle, whoops, sorry, excuse me, fumble. I'm going to release at the angle. See how this has a curve? I'm going to release at that angle. See? Just a little angle on both sides. See? There we go. So we're going to go ahead and measure over 1 inch on the back half and cut that off. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put that in your stockpile, and go ahead, and we are going to get out our scoreboard. With your Desire die cut on the right hand side, go ahead and push it up against the edge. I want you to score at 7/8 and also at 1 inch. 1 inch. Oops, fumble. I'm going to be covering that, so that's okay. Go ahead and fold. Alright, so you should have a 1/4 or an 1/8 of an inch spine across the top. Get out your magnets. We're going to be needing a total of 4, but you can go ahead and get out 2 right now. We are going to be putting a magnet right here on the back, and I am fold up. Don't get too close to the edge of the die because we are going to cover it with paper. So I'm just going to put a little tape on my magnet. We're going to cover up this piece. Oops. We are going to cover this piece. So in your paper pad, I would like you to locate this piece. It's glue and it has some kind of filigree, some roses, and on the other side it looks like this. We're going to take this and measure it. Now, I have my folds under, okay? I'm going to be using this corner down here so that to let you know it's the opposite corner of this piece right here that has kind of like, look, it's like a little watermark almost. Filigree up here, filigree over here. The other side is a little bit deeper turquoise, and this also has a checkerboard on it. So take this bottom right corner. Now here's what we have to do. We are going to use the bottom of our die to cut this to match. So, but I'm going to lay it on here first. And the best way to do this is just to lay your die right on top of your existing one. Now, you want to make sure that your paper is approximately a 1/16 inch away on the right, because we are going to have a small black border. Okay? So the first mark I'm going to make is a 1/16 inch in this direction from the back. Okay? So that's the first mark I'm going to make. So what I want you to do is go ahead and cut where you made your mark, a little pencil mark right there. Just cut across the paper, right back. So the larger piece, just set it aside for now. So this piece should have approximately a 1/16 of an inch border and still allows you to cut across here. So now go ahead and pull your die off for just a second, keeping it a 1/16 of an inch away from the right side and the top. Come over here. Sorry. Come in a 1/16 of an inch from this side here, and then go ahead and cut this piece from your mark down. This is what you should have, this piece. Set this aside for now. We do have to do the back. So now this should have a 1/16 of an inch border on top and both sides. Now what you're going to do is we're going to make that little line using this. To make sure I am not taking it off here for right now, I'm going to use it to make my lines. So got everything even all the way around. She's laying right on top of the original one I cut out. Make sure it's even on right and left. I'm going to make my pencil line. We've done this before, so this should not be something you're unfamiliar with. Pencil line and cut. I'm going to throw this away. So this piece should fit nice and snug right up against there. Now I am going to cut these little corners that I have that kind of look weird so they angle with my piece. That side. So they angle with the piece that I have underneath. If we cut these to match our die, it's going to be shorter than the page that we are attaching it to on the left and the right. So I choose to just go ahead and angle these. I don't think that looks that bad. So let's go ahead and glue this down. Make sure that you have your folds all the way under. Put it on the 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. Okay. In your reserve, you should have one of these circles. This is the one that just has the roses on it. And in your stockpile, I want you to locate one of your pieces of cardstock remnant. And this piece is 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and cut this circle out. Take your time. Cutting a circle out is probably the hardest thing to do. When I saw these circles in the paper pad, I have to admit, I was actually afraid of them. Okay. Now we are going to, let me set this aside for just a second. We're going to glue this, leaving about 1/8 of an inch, and then cut around it. Yes, I know I'm scared too. Personally, if I had my choice, I would just glue it on the front and not even have a border around it. But I know it's going to look better. Okay, so we glue that down and carefully cut a small black border all the way around. And I am going to take my time doing so. If you do not feel comfortable cutting a little black border around this, you know, you can place it on without it. I think it'll look just as pretty. I just like to challenge myself. Okay, I'm going to cut these little edges off. Put this in my stockpile. So this is going to go on here. Now you know why I kind of wanted the little black border. About like that. Measure it in. It's about 1 inch on both sides, a little less than 1/2 inch at the top, and place it down. So let's set this, turn it over and set it aside for a moment. In your reserve, you should have this piece. It's got lettering and it's kind of gray and peach, and on the other side it has these little cards. We're going to take this piece, and I'm not going to forget to ink it because I'm not going to be a dummy. Now the key is that this piece that we're looking at is going to go open like this. So the lettering, you want it to be legible. So I'm going to place it like this and do the same thing we did a couple minutes ago. First I'm going to lay it down. I know it's going to go right about there. This paper is almost exactly the right size. So lay it right on top, push the paper up, okay, because we're going to make our same little line. I'm going to make my line first. Alright, so I've made my line. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut this out. You get a little faster at this after a while. I'm going to go straight down both sides this way. Set her aside. We're going to use her again in a minute. So now that this is cut, it's going to make it way easier for us to cut the sides off. This is exactly the same size on both sides. So you just want to make a 1/16 of an inch mark on this side and a 1/16 of an inch mark on this side. I'm just going to slightly, keeping it even, moving in because I want you to see this. 1/16 of an inch to the left of the first score mark. Okay, so then we can just cut it right off. So trim off the back half first and then your two little sides. I'll be right back. These are the two little side pieces I trimmed off after I trimmed off this big piece. Set this piece aside for a moment. Remeasure to make sure that everything fits on here properly, and it does. Don't glue it down yet. Your stockpile, you should have a piece of cardstock that looks like this. It's 11 by a little over 2 inches. I want you to measure over 7.5 inches this way and cut. This is what you should have. Just set this piece aside for just a moment. Get out the piece we just cut. And we're going to make a little pocket. So I want you to get out your score tape. Put a score tape right along the bottom. Do not go over the edges. Make sure your score tape's on nice and tight. Take off the backing. Pocket a little bend. Make sure it's on there evenly. Same extension on both sides. Press it down. Fold it over. And glue it down. Okay, so we got our pocket on. Now I want you, in your reserve, I want you to get out 3 things. This piece right here that has a little turquoise corner on it. It's white on the back. This piece right here that has a little line that we cut off of one of our page sides. And this cute little card with the rose in this side. set this aside and set this aside for just a moment. I want you to take this piece, measure it on the right hand side, 1/16 of an inch back on the bottom, 1/16 of an inch on the right, and I'm going to cut off up the top part right here. So I'm measuring down a 1/16 of an inch this way, and I'm going to cut this piece off. I'll be right back. This is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and put this piece in my reserve. Once again, I'm going to double check that this fits at a 1/16 of an inch all the way around except this left hand side. I want you to take this piece that we just pulled with the little trim, and I'm going to place it on the end. Now, what we're going to do is measure. It's going to be a little side pocket. We want it to measure so that you have your other 1/16 of an inch border over here. Make sure that this piece is laid down here. It's not glued. Take this piece, give it a 1/16 of an inch border. I'm just going to take my pencil and put a light pencil mark right down the side of that. Okay, so we are going to wrap this little piece around and make a pocket, but before we do, please ink. Now you don't have to ink back here, but I am going to ink the other 3 sides, and I'm going to ink this piece around the edges before I put it down too. And then the little pocket piece. And you don't have to ink the shorter ends because they aren't going to show. So just the longer ends, and you don't even really have to go all the way to the end because it's going to get wrapped around. Alright? Take this piece. I want the little trim piece to be up against the line we made. We're going to fold it over and fold it over. Now before you lay it down, or before you glue it down, double check that you have the same borders all the way around, okay? So now that you do, pinch. This is just going to make up that little tiny bit that we needed, and I'm going to glue it with regular glue. I don't need big old. Now we could have cut this off, but it's not that big of a deal. You just lay that down right on there and glue it down. Pocket on the left. Make sure you have the same even border all the way around. And I forgot to put a little glue at the back. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue right inside. Forgot to put a little bit of glue in there. Doesn't make much of a pocket if it's open, isn't it? I want you to get out the little card I had you set aside, and that last piece of black cardstock that I had you set aside. Cut around your little card. I'm going to throw this away. Ink your sides, and then we'll glue it on here and cut around it. Okay, once you've inked this little piece, this little card, I want you to get it ready to glue it down. I'm going to glue it pretty close to the edges of this little black cardstock that we kept, and then cut along and leave about a 1/16 of an inch border. I forget when I'm zoomed in that sometimes you guys can't see what I'm doing. Cut along the edges. Once again, it doesn't have to be straight because this paper is not straight. So have fun. I love the not straight edges. Alright, so that is too cute. Normally I don't make cards with you guys, but this just seemed too perfect. So we can go ahead and glue this down. I'm going to take the tape off the back of my magnet so I don't have magnet bump. Don't get too far away from the edges, especially at the top part, because you don't want that to lift up. I'll start from the back so I don't accidentally place it wrong, and then be down on top of my little magnet score tape. Press it down and let it dry. We are going to get out this page that has the rose that matches this one. This is going at the top, so you want to first of all make sure that all of your folds are on the top and no folds on the back. Okay. Place it at the top of your page, nice and flush up against the top. Make sure the sides are even. Turn it over and pinch and turn it over. If it moves, do it again. Get your glue gun, turn it over, press it back up so your spine is even at the top. Okay, so we are going to set this aside for just a moment. Get out a new piece of cardstock, measure over 6 inches on the landscape, and cut. This is what you should have. You're going to take the smaller piece and put it over in your stockpile. Get out your Beatrice again. The exact same thing. You should know how to do this in your sleep now. We're going to just die cut right to the end and come right back. Release. Take your scissors. Do the same thing. Cut. I'm going to throw this piece away. Once you get it all cleaned out and everything, I want you to go ahead and turn it this way. Measure over 1 inch and cut. Put the small piece in your stockpile. We're going to go ahead and get out we're going to do the same thing. Get out your scoreboard. Measure to 7/8 score to 1 inch and score. Fold. Push your scores all the way to the back. I had you set this piece aside. It matches the piece that we put on the back of the other piece. And you also should have this piece. So let's put the small one just to the side for just a second. On this one, turn it so that its pattern is at the top. A rose is on the bottom right corner. So this time, I'm going to have you measure a 1/16 of an inch at the bottom and the right. Over here, you're going to make your mark 1/16 of an inch in. So I'm zooming so you can see. Move in from the edge of the black. I'll move up just a tiny bit so you can see. So, move in a 1/16 of an inch, make your mark. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Keep this piece, put this piece up in your reserve. So measure it, make sure that you have your 1/16 of an inch. Match your borders. 1/16 of an inch. Go this way. Just go ahead and make some little marks right on the top like this. So I just put little pencil marks right across the top. I'm going to turn it back over. See my little pencil marks? I'm going to line this up with my little pencil marks and drew my line underneath. Okay, so now we can go ahead and cut. You guys should be pros at this. And you know what? Make a boo-boo. Who cares? You embellish. Somebody said that to me today on Facebook. I make a lot of boo-boos, and I said, so embellish, embellish, embellish. No one will know the difference. Put this in your reserve. Double check. We're going to have to make sure it fits. Go ahead and ink your sides. Look, I didn't forget. Before we glue this down, we need to put our magnet on. So go ahead and get out your page that we just put the top part on. See, found my magnet friend. I'm going to get a tiny piece of score tape, put it on the back, taking the backing off the score tape. Once again, pressing this piece up against the bottom, making sure it's even on both sides. Take my top with my magnet, bring it over. Make sure that your spine at the top is flat. Press. And voila. I'm going to take another little piece of score tape just to make sure. There we go. So you can set this back aside for a moment and we'll start putting our paper on. So this was our piece for the front. Go ahead and get that ready. Take off the score tape from the back of my magnet. Glue this on, making sure that I have my 1/16 of an inch even border all the way around. I always go from the bottom first because I have that magnet, and if I press against the score tape before I have it even, guess what will be stuck on there. Okay, so go ahead and turn this piece over, hinge at the top, get a magnet. Now it's going to find the other one, but I'm going to go ahead and let it find that magnet, and I'm going to put a piece of tape on it. Because this piece is going to be hinged on here, and right now we can go ahead and do that. So if you want to open this up, make sure that your hinge is flat. Okay? We're not going to attach it, we're just going to get our magnet in place. Okay, so press this up against the bottom, hinge, hold it, get your other magnet, let it find its mate, and put a piece of score tape on it. The first magnet is holding the top down, and the second magnet will hold this piece. Okay? So now you can go ahead and pull this off and set this aside. Turn it over, and we're going to use the piece that I had you just now set aside. Should match, looks like this on the back. And this piece is going to come down this way, so you want to make sure that the writing is going the right direction. So, go get your die, place it right on top of itself. Okay, so I've got a 1/16 of an inch border over here. My paper's pulled down as far as I can go before it shows. I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to cut first, and then I'll trim off the back. Throw this away. So I only have to trim off one side of this for now. So I'm making my little mark over here for this, and then I'm going to measure the back so I can cut that piece off. So remember, you don't want to go over your first fold. So I'm going to pull over just a little, 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to cut this long piece off first, and then the little short piece down the side. This is what I cut off. This piece is going into my reserve. The other piece I'm throwing away. I'm going to go ahead and ink this piece. I like to be a little bit heavy-handed on these lighter pieces so that they match the rest of the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Take my magnet tape off, placing the back first because of my magnet. Now I haven't showed you yet, but I've been using my little Holtz hangers, and I love them. I think they're adorable. So I'm just going to put one right here on the side for right now, because I'm going to more than likely put a card in there. Here's one of the leftovers that I had earlier, and you can just cut them and put them on a piece of black cardstock and stick it right in there. So you won't have this in your reserve because I already cut. I'll show you. I don't want to confuse you. This was an entire sheet. There were 4 more across the top. I have cut them off, and I started making them because I'm going to be using this sheet for my cards. I'm cutting these little cards out and I'm putting them on black. So if you want to go find this in your cardstock paper pad, it will have 4 more of these tags at the top. This will be the top left one. I just cut them off and I cut each one out. So I'm going to use this one and just show you what I'm doing. And then I will go get my album because I've already put some of these in, and I can show you what I did with them. So I just cut around them. Go ahead and throw this away. Grab a piece of your cardstock. I have this little piece that we used earlier. Ink the sides. So I'm going to take this, glue it. I'm going to go really close to the corner, about a 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. I like the little rounded corners it has, it's cute. I'm cutting the same little border, rounded corner. Okay, put this piece back in my stockpile, and as you can see, you can place that little card right there with your little Holtz hanger. Isn't that cute? I'll get my album as soon as we attach this page. Okay, and it shouldn't bother your magnet. Just keep it up close to the edge. There. Get your page out, open it. Make sure that your scores are all the way to the front. Okay, scores to the front, nothing on the back. Place it up against the bottom of your page. Center it on both sides. Make sure it's flush up against the bottom pinch. Turn it over and attach it down. Bring it back over. Push back, make sure your spine is flush. It should attach with your magnet and your magnet. Okay, let's go ahead and put our score tape on the back. We're going to do a frame all the way around, one down the center and short on either side of the centerpiece, okay? Okay, so you want to make sure your score tape is down nice and snug. Pull off the backing and get your album out, okay? Make sure that you have this in here right. I went ahead and moved that little card to the front that we just placed just for now. I wanted to see what it looked like. Place this so it has an even border all the way around. Okay, I'm going to open it. Make sure it's down nice and snug. Close it, and we'll embellish in a few minutes. So, I wanted to show you some of the cards that I had done. So, what I wanted to do, let's see. Oh, and the hangers. So, I placed a hanger right here on the inside of one of these, and I may place another one in here too. But for now, I just placed a little hanger and put a little card on it. I placed a little hanger and one of the cards in here. I placed a little hanger and a little card here. So these are the cards I was telling you about that I started placing for. They're embellishments, but they're usable. They're just like, they're tags. And if you want to, you could put white paper on the backs of these and they'd be much easier to journal on. So I think that'd be a really cute idea. Little Tim Holtz hangers are so flippin' cute. And there's plenty of other places we could put them. I just haven't gotten all the way. So let's go ahead and put this away, and we'll embellish these pages last and get ready to do page 10. Okay, so we are ready to start page 10. In your cardstock pile, you should find two pieces. They're exactly the same size. These are about 4 1/8 by 8 1/2. Okay, so we are going to use our die again, the same one, Beatrice, but we are going to cut her out of this. So what you need to do is you need to measure. I want you to measure it right up against the edge on both pieces, and we're going to cut off this extra. So I'm just going to make a line right there. Take this other one and do the same thing. I'm on the landscape. I'm putting the Beatrice right up against the left edge, measuring her straight across the top. Again, I talked like she's a person. And I'm going to go ahead and cut off these two pieces. Be right back. This is what you should have. So we're going to put the two smaller pieces in our stockpile for later. And you're going to cut the Beatrice out of the top of both of these. So go ahead and line it up, run it through your die cutter, and come back. Both pieces. I am taping it to the top because I don't want to tear the back piece. So make sure you run it at the top. Okay, so this is what you should have. We are going to release these, but I just basically want you to put it on your paper cutter and cut straight down the same distance that's overlapped on both of these, okay? Run those through your paper cutter and cut off the edges to release the tops. This is what I cut off. I'm just going to throw that in the garbage. This is what you should have. Go ahead and get out your scoreboard. And we're going to place the first one right here up against the edge. And I want you to score at 5/8. And take the other one and score at 5/8. And then score at 3/4 on each. Hold. We have them both folded. In your reserve, you should have this. I want you to go ahead and measure over 2.5 inches and split this in half. So we are going to take our Beatrice, just like we have all the times before. I'm going to make sure that this piece is down at the bottom, and I'm going to keep the roses down at the bottom. So just take your Beatrice, push it to the far left on the one with the roses, push it all the way up until You're just at the edge of your paper. Basically, you can see here, I'm just pushing it till it's right at the edge, and I'm going to be able to just pencil mark. I've got more hanging over the right. This is going to get cut off. So you put your pencil mark, do it on both. Again, push it to the far left just until you're not, so you can cover the top. Okay. Go ahead and cut those out. Then we'll measure the sides and cut them to fit. Okay, so we're going to push all of our scores to the back. Set your piece on set the piece you just cut right on top. And we're going to go ahead and get our 1/16 of an inch borders. Cut those. And then cut the back so that it has a border. So we're cutting off this 1/16 of an inch over here, and then we're cutting the back off so that there's a 1/16 of an inch border at the bottom on both pieces. Go ahead and trim off everything and come back. I'm going to throw away the little pieces that I cut off, and then I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges of these. Let's go ahead and glue these on. These are the front, and then we'll go get our paper for the back and do the exact same thing. Make sure that you have your border. Alright, so set those aside for a second. In your reserve, you should have a piece that looks like this. We're going to use this to cover the other side of these. It looks just like the one we just had. It has a matching rose, kind of a little die mark, and it has we're going to use one of these as our reference. So set the paper right along the edge over here. Go ahead and make a mark so that it's the same distance over here, and just cut this piece right off. This is what you should have. Now, if I was smart, I would have measured these with those before I cut them, but I didn't. So place this to the top. Make sure it's even on both sides. It's going to fall off the edges because the die underneath is smaller. Make your pencil mark and go ahead and cut. Throw this away. Turn one of these over. Place it on top. Measure both sides. I'm going to measure the back so that I'm about 1/8 of an inch on both sides on this one. 1/16 inch away from my edge, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. I'm going to use this as reference for the second one. I'm just going to place it right along the edge. This is the one I just cut. I'm just going to use it as reference, placing it right on top so it touches the top. I'm just going to go around with my pencil. It's no different than using the bottom of my die. It's just as easy to use this. Got my reference again, and I'm going to cut it. I'm going to throw this away. I'm using the length of the reference of this one that I cut before, making my little pencil line, and I'll cut off the back of this. This is what you should have. It's going to go in your reserve. Go ahead and turn these two over. Pull your hinges back. Do not glue these down, just double check that they fit. Set them aside for a moment and get out 2 sets of magnets. We're going to place one in the same spot we've been placing them the whole time. Tape them down. Go ahead and take the tape off the back of these the score tape backing off of these, and glue on the back of these, and place them down. Make sure you place them in the back first. Do that to both. So now I want you to get out your page 10. This is your page 10. Okay, so I want you to make sure that your scores are all the way to the front, no scores on the back. This piece goes on the right-hand side, the flowers are at the bottom. Okay. Make sure it's flush with the bottom. Pushed right up against here, pinch, turn it over, and glue it down. Turn it back over, push your spine back, make sure that it's flush. Get your other piece, spines to the front, none on the back. This one goes to the top, push it all the way, make sure it's flush, pinch, turn it over, and glue it down. Turn it over, push the spine back, and flatten it out. Go ahead and turn this piece over, find the 2 magnets, and put tape on them, keep them in place. And once again, you're welcome to use glue. Go ahead and set this aside. Get this out of your reserve, and I want you to go ahead and cut between these and cut between these. This is what you should have. Put these back in your reserve. I want you to hold out this one and this one. Put the one with the blue back in your reserve. The two pieces I had you keep, I would like for you to cut around them both and get them inked up. Right around, fussy cut right around these. Cut those both out. We'll be right back. Throw this stuff away. In your reserve, you should find a piece of cardstock that is 8.5 by 4 1/8. And take one of these. It looks like this. There's a little rose here. The other one has some lettering on it right here. I'm going to take this one. I'm just going to glue it down towards the bottom, and then I'm going to cut around it, leaving about 1/8 of an inch border. And so it's going to take you a couple extra minutes. Glue close to the edges so none of your edges come up. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut around that. I'm going to just show you I am leaving about 1/8 of an inch border. It's going to take a couple extra minutes to cut this out, so take your time. I'm going to finish this up and be right back. I'm going to throw the two little corner pieces away. I'm going to put this in my stockpile, and there you go. I am going to be placing this piece right here on top. This little point right here and this little point right here are just about the center. I'm going to show you. About 1 1/8 inches and 1 1/8 away from both sides. I'm going to make sure it's centered. So in order to place it in the right spot, once again, I'm just going to make a little pencil mark on here where it's going to be placed back down. Put glue right beneath your pencil mark, right? And then carefully open this up. Put a little bit of glue right here in this arch. Place it back down where you made your pencil mark. Now, we can always put a little more glue underneath the tip of here. Okay. This is going to maybe seep through a little bit, so that's why I'm not closing it. I'm doing it this way. Turn it over. Put a little bit of glue on here. Putting it just on the inside, on the edge of this lace. Now the other piece is going to go on top, but we aren't going to glue it all the way down. We're going to glue it partially so that you can stick a card back here. Okay, so glue went all the way down this side. Get out your Heidi Swapp stickers. I want you to grab the one that says love in your stockpile. You should have a small piece of cardstock. It's just a long skinny piece. Go ahead and place this. Should fit with about 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. Just going to go ahead and cut off the small piece down the side. So I have this. Go ahead and set this aside for a moment. We're going to go ahead and place that right there with some glue. Alright, I also would like for you to find this piece that's also in your stockpile. And then on your Heidi Swapp stickers, we're going to take this one. It's green with some flowers. I'm going to place it, again, with the border being what I want to have, with about 1/16 of an inch border. And then I'm just going to cut off 1/16 of an inch here and 1/16 of an inch there. So go ahead and make my marks and go cut. This is what I cut off. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my stockpile. I've got this opened up all the way out. I'm going to glue this just to the edge of this in the corner and make another little pocket. Just going to put glue, turn it over. See the flowers in the top right corner? I'm going to turn it over, put glue on down the right and down the bottom. A very slender piece of glue. Okay. Can't put anything too thick in here. The left-hand side is flush with this. The bottom is flush with this. You have another little place to put a tiny little journaling card or something right there, okay? Okay, so that page is done. So let's go ahead and turn it over and put your score tape on and put it in your album. Score tape is down. Go ahead and make sure it's down nice and tight and pour the back. Take the backing off of your score tape. Okay, score tape backing is off. Go ahead and place it in your album with the border, same border all the way around. Open it up and make sure it's down nice and snug. So I want you to get out your coral mini blooms and your sea breeze mini blooms, and I cut out three of the darker turquoise ones and 3 of the peach. This is how I'm going to glue them down. So following this edge, turquoise next to it. Okay. Now the other ones are being glued on this piece down here, but again I'm going to follow the edge, the opposite side. Do not glue it on the piece. Glue it just underneath, see, so it can come up. Alright? So it looks like they're framing them, but when it comes up, they'll be on the other page. So on page 9, I went ahead and added 3 to match the ones on the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my diamond stickles and make sure that I sparkle them all up. This will take a while to dry, so this is always the last thing that I do. Just kind of put a little everywhere and set that aside and let it dry. Okay, we're ready for 11 and 12. In your paper pad, I want you to look for this paper. It's got some writing on it. In the back, it's all pink with a really pretty pattern that kind of looks like Victorian drapes. I want you to take this side, measure over 6 inches, and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and take it, put this underneath, turn it this way so you have writings going all the right direction. Measure over 8 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Put the 2 smaller pieces in your reserve and set them aside for just a moment. In your stockpile, you're going to look for this piece of cardstock. It's 8.5 by 5. I'm going to turn it this way. Go ahead and get out your Sophia, and I want you to place her. We're going to cut 2 out. I'm just going to place her very close to the very bottom left corner and tape it down. And I would like for you to cut 2 of these out. So let's go ahead and cut our first one, and I'll be right back. Like I said, get her as close to the bottom and the corner as you can. This is what we're going to cut out. You can put your tape on the top. So go ahead and cut that out. Come right back. Okay, so this is what you should have. I'm going to grab my scissors, and I want you to carefully just cut straight up and release. Same, we can just release on this side. Okay, so we just cut it up and released it. Set it aside, turn it around, do the same thing. Place her right up against the edge, right along the bottom, and cut a second one out. Okay, once you've released it, snip. Put this in your stockpile. Go ahead and set these up here for just a moment. In your reserve, you should have 2 pieces of brown. So I want you to go ahead and cut 2 Sophias one out of each of these. Now, this one is not going to cover all the way around, but don't worry because we are not going to be using these corners. They're just going to get rolled over the page. So don't worry about it. Just center it so that you have the same distance coming off here as you do over here. And run it through the die cutter, and we'll be right back. Carefully release, it will fall off. Set it up here, clean out your die, and run it through this one now. Same thing, put this one on the bottom, make sure it's not falling off either edge, and run it through the die cutter. Release. Put this piece in your reserve. Go ahead and release this one. Put this in your reserve. This is what you should have. We're going to go ahead and glue these right on top. The black was for reinforcement. Remember, like last time, I want you to make sure that you get as much of the little edges as possible. Your edges. Place it right on top of your black one. The glue seeps over. I'm just going to blot it off, okay? Same with the second one. Down. Once again, this one will be a little short if you did the short one second. Okay, go ahead and get out your back pages. These are going to go in the corners like this. So what I want you to do is I'll take the first one. I'm going to show you how I want this to be placed. This curve and this curve. I want you to bring them so that they touch right there and right there. So pinch, turn it over, and fold it down on both sides. Don't let it go, okay? Hold them over nice and tight. Use my glue gun to glue these down. Make sure they're snug. There's the first one. Take the other one, opposite side. Place it, same place. Pinch, turn it over, fold, fold, glue. Should have a small piece of your rosette lace left. We're going to measure across the top. Looks like it's going to be cut right about there. Measure the other one across the top. We are actually doing these 2 pages together, as you can see. Get these ready to glue down. Put a little tiny glue strip right across the top. Put that one tiny little straight line across the top. Get it started. You can just put a little bit of glue at the bottom of each of the rosettes. Maybe just tip these little pieces. Okay? And we'll do the same with the other side. I will go back and do the edges on each of these. Just want to get just the edges. I don't know if you know that Art Glitter came out with new glue tip pins, and these are actually 6 stainless steel pins, and there's also these little what they call nodgers, and this is a way for you to use to take off extra glue if it's along the edges of things. But we carry these, and they're really awesome because, you know, you lose these. Well, I just bent mine in half, and so I just went and grabbed a new one instead of having to buy a whole new metal tip. I have 6 new pin tips, glue tips. In your reserve, you should have these. I'm going to use the one that says with love and the one that says love every moment. So I'm just going to cut these all out and I'll be right back. I changed my mind. I'm going to keep for you and with love. And I'm going to put the other ones in my reserve. Go ahead and cut around these and ink them, and then we'll be right back. Ink them up, get in your reserve and pick out one of your black pieces. This is, I'm gonna guess, yep, about 4 1/8. Go ahead and place these down, glue them down and cut them out. Make sure you don't get them too close to the edge so you can get your little 1/8 of an inch border out of them. I'm gonna cut down the center first, carefully leaving a distance away to cut, leaving a small black border. I'm gonna throw these away, get my pages out. Just gonna tuck these right in here. Get out your 1/4 inch flat back fancy pearls. I'm going to glue one right there, one right there. Be careful that you don't get your glue underneath. So if you need to put a piece of paper, I'm just gonna get something I have. It just happens to be the back of one of my mini bloom cards that I've used. Put one here and one here. So these are done. As soon as your little pearls are dry, go ahead and put your score tape on the back, and we'll get our album out and put these in our album. So I went ahead and put my score tape on the back, made sure it was all down tight. I'm going to take the backing off, get out my album, and put the last 2 pages in. I'm going to show you just some of the additional embellishments that I decided to put in. On page 6, I put in another one of the Jolie boutique stickers, Gem and Pearl stickers right here in the center. I also went along the edges of this curve and this curve right here with some silver stickles. Okay, and then just inside along this curve as well. Page 7 and 8, I did the same thing. Silver stickles, since I'm not using bling, and I had the stickles, I might as well. On 9 and 10, again, stickles and stickles. And since this one ended right there, I didn't have to go any further, but I did go on the whole thing on this one. I also added stickles to the inside along the edge of the die here and up here, and also along the edges of this little piece that has the love in the center of it. On page 11 and 12, I added another one of those cute little Holtz hangers, and this is holding this in place as well as this circle so that you can actually read the writings on them. For the closure, I'm going to be using some, it is 3/8 inch peach ribbon, and I just strung it through my hook. You place your hook on the side of your album, like so, and leave it loose. If you don't, you will not be able to put your mats in, and you also won't be able to put pictures on your mats and get it closed. So even though I can push it, I'm just gonna let it fall on its own, okay? You just take it around the back and put a little hot glue on here. I'm gonna rub my ribbons over, and I'm gonna put a little embellishment. I'll be right back. Also on the back, I went ahead and grabbed my last black Heidi Swapp receipt pocket. I cut it down. I cut off the top, so this is the white one. I cut this straight across, got all of this off of here, cut this open here, and then I score taped it right onto the corner. Took one of our little cards, added some of these little flowers to my ribbons, and this beautiful new pearl cluster here to the back of the ribbon, and then I added the same little flower. These came from our canvas flowers and butterflies, and I stuck it in the back. Now the cool thing is you can just go ahead and put a little piece of white paper if you'd like to on the back of this and put it in here, and that way somebody can actually put who made it or what the occasion was for or whatever you'd like. And you don't have to use the thank you one, you can use whichever one you would like. So I inked up the little card and I added one of the little canvas flowers at the top, and I didn't want it to say thank you, so I pulled out one of our little tags that says with love. I inked it along the edges, and I'm just going to glue it right on top of the thank you, because I think that every album we make is made with love. So I'm just going to place that right on there, and I like it off the edge. I think it's cool. So take my book back, and I'm going to place that right in there. All we have left now to do is make the mats, and we don't make the mats together. You just want to use the rest of your cardstock, and let me go ahead and set this aside for a moment. This is what I had left in my reserve pile with regard to some of the tags. These can be used. Also remember, you still have a lot of your little Heidi Swapp paper, and you can actually put these on cardstock as well. They can be used for journaling, and you can put pictures over the top of them. I have this left in my paper pad. Be using all of these for mats. And then I also have about 3 pieces of paper. So this is all that's left from my reserve pile. I have another one of these, and then I have these 3 pieces of paper still left. So there's plenty for you to make mats out of. And I want to thank everyone for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was great working together with you making it. And I look forward to our next project together. Happy crafting, everybody. Bye.